Hello children, welcome to today's class. Today we are going to start up with our second lesson in social, the revolt of 1857. Children, in this lesson we are going to see the continuation of our previous lesson. What are all the things we have seen in our previous lesson? We have seen about different set of people, those who entered India. Second is what is their purpose of entering India. Third, how those people started to expand their trade in our country. And final, how British people has got our government in their hands and how they started to control our Indians. These are all the things we have seen in our first lesson. So by continuing these concepts, we are going to see a few things in this lesson. In this lesson, we are going to see about the post changes of British rule. Post changes in the sense, after the British getting entered India, what are all the changes we have got, what are all the sufferings we have got, everything we are going to see in this lesson. So children, we are divided the lesson into two parts. First part we are going to see only few concepts: Battle of Plassey, Battle of Buxar, advantages of British rule, disadvantages of British rule, and doctrine of lapse. Let us enter the lesson. So already we have know how these people has been mischievously entered in our country, how they slowly started to trade with the other countries and got goods in a low market price from our country. So after this, these people started to break the rules which has been given by the Mughal emperors little by little. So by breaking the rules, what they done is they started to conquer many countries which has been under the control of our Indian kings. So by seeing this, some of the kings have started to raise their voice to ask questions against the British. So one among them is, can you see a person in this picture? He is Siraj-ud-Dawla, the Nawab of Bengal. The Nawab in the sense the king who has been ruled the part of Bengal during that period. This king, what he has done is, Siraj-ud-Dawla started to ask a question to the British about their mischiefs and what are all the wrongdoings they are done with the Indian people, and he started to protest against their unjust way of trading with the Indian people. So what has happened in the sense, the British started to got anger over this particular king, and the British started to war against Siraj-ud-Dawla. While during this, the British used Mir Jafar, a minister of Siraj-ud-Dawla. They told Mir Jafar if he has been helping the British, he would be awarded with the reward and the money. So for this thing, Mir Jafar started to help the British against the Nawab of Bengal. So due to his conspiration, the British defeated Siraj-ud-Dawla in this battle. And this battle we call it as Battle of Plassey. It has been started in the year of 1757, and the British general who defeated Siraj-ud-Dawla is Robert Clive. So children, once again I repeat, the British started to war against Siraj-ud-Dawla, and this war we call it as Battle of Plassey, which has been started in the year of 1757. And the next war we are going to see is Battle of Buxar. Battle of Buxar. In this war, the English people again started to war with the set of peoples. Last time during Battle of Plassey, we saw that the Nawab of Bengal can't able to win the battle. So through that battle, our Indian kings can able to analyze the power of the British, how those people can able to fight against the people, what are their superior powers, they could able to control the other kingdoms. So by utilizing this, by observing these things, the Nawab has planned to get the friendship and get the strength from the other state kingdoms. So he started to form a army of the other states. First is he started with the combined army of Nawabs. In the combined army of the Nawabs, three set of kingdoms were there. First is the Nawab of the Oudh, the Nawab of the Bengal, and the final is the Mughal Emperor. All these three kingdoms started to get their soldiers together. They started to get up their powers together to fight against the British. So in 1764, for the same reason of opposing against the British, they started to fight with the British. So this war we call it as Battle of Buxar. In this war also again the same thing happens as like Battle of Plassey. Battle of Buxar is also not a success for Indian people. They started to lose the war. So by using this losing, British people started to collect the taxes. What is mean by taxes? Nowadays we are paying money to the government, a small amount of money to the government for using water, and for apart from our salary, our income, we are paying some income taxes, isn't it? So these people started to collect the revenue, that is taxes, from many parts of the states. First of all, they started to collect the revenue in the Bengal state, and not only these people stopped with collecting the revenue, these people started to use many unfair ways. Likewise, they started to force the farmer to pay the debts again and again, and they started to get the land from the landowners. After getting the landowners property also, they started to ask the farmers to pay the debts. So these kind of unfair ways has been utilized by the British. So by little and little they started to get the land properties and the kingdoms from various kings. So by this way many states has been came under the power of the British rule. Next thing we are going to see is British measures in conquering territories. That is, what are all the new methods the British has been handled to get the states from the Mughal emperors. First is the British started to observe the fight between the Indian kingdoms. Already we have heard that many small kingdoms and many big kingdoms were there. That is, few states will be occupied and controlled by one kingdom, and many other states will be occupied by the other king. So this small kingdom and big kingdoms will be having some fights to conquer the places under their control. So by utilizing this kind of chances, the British started to accept one set of kingdom, and they started to support one set of kingdom to fight against the other set of kingdom. Likewise, they started to hold the states under their control. And the second thing is, the British started to capture a number of large kingdoms by applying a particular rule called as divide and rule policy. What is this divide and rule policy? Suppose if a king is ruling nearly 10 to 15 places, he will be ruling, and the next king will be ruling some 10 to 15 places. What they done is, this British people started to engage some 3 to 4 person as the leaders or as the head of the particular place, so that they will be occupying one kingdom and the other leader will be occupying the next kingdom. So 15 places will be coming under the first leader, and the next 15 places or some other places will be going to the next leader. Likewise, they started to occupy as kingdom and kingdom by using the divide and rule policy. By using this divide and rule policy, they started to make a clash between the Hindus and the Muslims also. And the next thing is, whenever these things are going on, all the kings of the India has not been let out the country in the hands of the British. So in this way, a few powerful kingdoms started to continuously fight against the British. One among them are the Maratha kingdom, the Punjab kingdom, and the Mysore kings. These three kings have continuously fought with the British, but finally in the year of 1850, most of the part of India has been came under the control of British. So children, so far we have seen how British people have started to pressure our country, isn't it? So we are going to see this pressure is in two different levels. One is advantages of the British rule, and the next is disadvantages of the British rule. In this advantages, we are going to see what are all the benefits we have been got from the rule of the British, whether it may be in the olden days or still now we are utilizing many changes which has been started with our British rule. We will see one by one. First is, the British introduced a formal education. Formal education in the sense, nowadays we are going to school and we are having some routine of daily plan. We will be writing some tests. We are being tested by the teachers, isn't it? You are getting some great knowledges each and every year. So this is we call it as a formal education. That is, you will be having a timetable, you will be having a regular schedule, you will be having a daily routine of reading something. So this kind of formal education has been first introduced by the British people. And apart from this formal education, they also introduced different subjects like Western science. Western science in the sense you will be reading about science and technologies, what are all the new updations has been done in science, today's science. Next is economy, that is the country's budget or some other happenings which is being related again around the money. And the next is politics education. Politics education in the sense government of a country, how the government is being ruled, what are all the importance of laws of a government. So these particular subjects has been introduced by the British people. Before these people starting this kind of education, we used to read only Veda education, which is being interrelated to only our own culture. So the next second advantage is the British passed many laws to end social evils. Social evils in the sense we ourselves we will be know that it is very wrong to do some inhumanity to the other people. For example, child marriage. A child who has been in a very less age, under 12 or under 10, they have been got married to some other person. So this kind of law has been stopped by the British. And the second is sati marriage. Sati marriage in the sense, sati in the sense whenever the husband is got died, the wife also being thrown to the fire alive. So this kind of bad evils has been stopped by the British. And the third advantage of British is starting of railway system. Nowadays we know how much we are using trains, isn't it? If you want to go from one place to another, train is traveling as an important way of communication. We can able to go to that particular distance in a very faster way. So this first railway system has been introduced by the British people, and the first train has been started to run between Bombay to Thane, from the place of Bombay that connect to Thane in the year of 1853. And the next is uniform system of laws were introduced. Uniform system in the sense wherever you go inside India, all the laws will be same. Can you able to follow if the law is different? Suppose if you are being inside one district, there will be one law. If you are moving to the other district or other state, it will be in another law. It is not easy to follow every law, isn't it? So uniform system of laws were being introduced inside the country. And the last is the British introduced a telegraph and postal system. Postal system we all know. In the olden days we used to send letters. Now also we are using for official things. We will be sending a letter to a particular person or to a particular management. And the next is telegraph. Telegraph is nothing but a machine which transmits the message in a very short way by using signals. Likewise, your landline telephone. Have you seen a landline telephone, children? Yes, it will be connected through a wire. If you call to some person, it can able to connect your voice through signals. Likewise, this telegraph is also a machine which transmits your message to the next person, but not through voice, only through the signals of your message. Still now we are utilizing those postal system, isn't it? Yes. Next we are going to see about the disadvantages of British rule. That is, what are all the sufferings we got from the British rule. In this disadvantages, the first thing is the British started to purchase the raw materials. Raw materials in the sense we farmers will be taking out of all those things from the soil. They will be planting the crops, they will be started to grow the plants, but after doing all those hardships, everything will be brought to their raw market. This raw material has been completely taken over by a low price by the British. Suppose if the farmer is spending nearly 10 rupees for getting those raw materials, the British will be taking the raw materials for nearly 5 to 6 rupees. Just for an example I am telling, it will be taken for a lower price. Again they will be shipping them to the European markets for selling those raw materials in a very high price. So who is the loser? Our Indian farmers is the loser. And the second is, after shipping those raw materials to the European market, the British will be making them in a finished goods. Finished goods in the sense the product which is being ready to used by the people on spot. So those kind of finished goods has been again sold to the Indian farmers or Indian people in a very very high cost. One thing you have to remember, the raw materials has been got from the Indian people for a low price. Again they have been went out and again they have been changed as finished goods and resold to the Indian people in a high cost. The third is the farmers were forced to grow cash crops. What is meant by cash crops? You would have seen in our previous standards and all, isn't it? Whenever the crops is being sold for a very high amount, for example, cashew nuts. Have you eaten a cashew nut? Cashew nut, almonds, walnut, these are all cash crops. Likewise, these cash crops has been forced to grow. The farmers were forced to grow the cash crops, and again these cash crops are also sold to the British in a very very low amount. Here the farmers were forced to grow main two cash crops. One is indigo and another one is cotton. Indigo is nothing but a kind of plant which will be giving a purple color. Nowadays we are using many colors in our dresses, isn't it? Are we all wearing a white dress, children? No. Daily we are wearing some color dresses. How these colors have been got? These colors has been got from some dye or from coloring agents, isn't it? So in the early days, indigo is a kind of plant. If you are using that plant, you will be getting a dark purple shade. So it is being used in the dyeing industry. So cotton is also a good cash crop. So cotton and indigo were forced to done by the farmers in a very large amount, and apart from that they have sold the goods to a low price to the British traders. And apart from this, after selling these goods also, the farmers were forced to pay the heavy debts. The farmers are also supposed to pay the taxes to the British people. And the next is doctrine of lapse. Already we have seen about the divide and rule policy, isn't it? They have started to divide the country into many segments and then only they started to rule the country. Likewise, the next set of rule it is being brought by the English government is, British government is doctrine of lapse. In this rule, understand clearly children, suppose if a king is been ruling nearly 5 to 10 states, nearly 5 to 10 countries or whatever it might be, he is ruling. If the particular king, whoever has been ruling the country, is not having his own son or daughter, understand again, if a particular king who is ruling the kingdom is not having his own son or daughter, automatically after his death, the particular property, the kingdom, whatever the king is ruling, everything will be go to the hand of the British. This is we called as a doctrine of lapse. During those days, few kings they started to grow up their child. Likewise, it may be their brother's daughter or it may be their adopted son or an adopted daughter. But those adopted daughters and sons were not accepted as they are here, and their complete property has been seized out by the British. By using this policy only, the British annexed so many states such as Jhansi. Have you recalled about Rani Lakshmi Bai? Yes, the particular queen will be having an adopted son with her wherever she will be moving. That adopted son is not been accepted as a official son, and all the properties of Jhansi has been got by the British government after her losing in war. So children, we are going to see a few hard words and its meaning from the topics which we have seen. First is conspired. Conspired, the meaning is secretly planned to do something harmful. Meaning is secretly planning to do something harmful to the other person. Second one is revenue. Revenue in the sense taxes. Money that a government receives from the taxes of the people. Third one is unfair means. Unfair means in the sense A wrong action, an unfair action which is not being justice at all, an unfair action which is not based according to the principle of equality and justice. And the next is foothold. Foothold in the sense a secure position from which further progress can be made. You should be very secured in one place, so only you can make your further development in the other places. That is we call it as a foothold. And the last is revolt. Revolt in the sense taking violent action, that is taking a very hard action against a particular set of government or a ruler who is ruling the country. So children, we are going to try out a few questions from the topic. First is, who conspired against the Nawab of Bengal? Recall the fact which we have seen and get the answer, children. Who conspired against the Nawab of Bengal? For this question, you have to give the name of the person who behaved against the Nawab of Bengal. Have you got the answer, children? Second question. Mention few powerful kingdoms that fought against British. For this question, you have to give the names of the powerful kingdoms who continuously fought against the British for a very long period. We have seen 3 set of people. Recall it. Have you done, children? Yes. Third one is, which policy helped the British to capture a number of kingdoms? We have seen only 2 policies. This is the policy which captured a number of kingdoms in the first starting stage. Have you got the answers, children? Let us take the answers for those questions. First question I have asked you is, who conspired against the Nawab of Bengal? Yes, the answer is Mir Jafar, the minister of Sirajud-Dowlah, has conspired the Nawab. And the second question I asked is, mention any 3 powerful kingdoms which fought against the British. So the answer is, a few powerful kingdoms are the Marathas, the Punjab and Mysore. Third question I asked about the policy which has been started by the British to occupy kingdoms. For this, the answer is the policy of divide and rule helped the British to capture many kingdoms. Very good, children. Next, we are going to do a small activity by using these bubbles, okay? Can you see some 5 bubbles here? Yes. In the center, I have given as Battle of Plassey. In the remaining 4 bubbles, we are going to write the concepts we have been seen in the Battle of Plassey. In the top first bubble, you have to fill with the Nawab who has been involved in this Battle of Plassey. Right side, you have to write the person who fought in this war. Who is the person who fought with the next person? Down bubble, you have to write the year of Battle of Plassey. And the left side bubble, you have to fill with the person who done wrong against the Nawab. Start recalling, children. Children, let us check with the answer. Yes, I already asked you. First bubble at the top, you have to write the name of the Nawab. Yes, what is the name of the Nawab? Sirajud-Dowlah. Good. Right side, you have to write with the people who started to fight against them, British and the Nawab of Bengal. Down arrow, you have to write the year. What is the year? 1757. Yes. Left side, you have to write about the person who reacted against the Nawab. Who is the person? Mir Jafar. Good try, children. Again, we are going to do one small bubble. In this, we are going to see about Battle of Buxar. 2 wars we have been seen, isn't it? This is about Battle of Buxar. For this also, you have to give the year, among whom and whom the war has been fought, and the next is who are all the persons who are involved in the combined army. Start recalling. Children, shall we check with the answer? Yes, the year of Battle of Buxar is 1764. Right side is the people who involved in the battle is the British started to fight against the combined army. Good. And the left side is who are all in the combined army? The Bengal of Nawab, the Nawab Bengal, the Nawab of Oudh and the Mughal Emperor. Very good, children. So, again we are going to see a small recap, whatever the concepts we have seen. First, we have been started with our introduction, how the British people started to open many trade markets and they started to earn more profits. And the second is they misused the facilities granted by the Mughal rulers and the British started to break the rules. And the final thing is the British conquered many states and many territories and gained their overpower control on the Indian people. Next, we have started with the Battle of Plassey. The person in the picture is Siraj-ud-Dawla and he is the Nawab of Bengal. Nawab is King of Bengal. He started to protest against the British way of trading. So the British started a war against Siraj-ud-Dawla in the year of 1757. This war is known as Battle of Plassey. And next we saw that Mir Jafar was one of the minister of Siraj-ud-Dawla and that person helped the British to defeat the Nawab. So finally, with the help of Mir Jafar, the British General Robert Clive has defeated the Nawab of Bengal in this battle. So this battle we call it as Battle of Plassey. And the next we saw was Battle of Buxar. This Battle of Buxar has been started in the year of 1764. Yes, in this the British started to fight against the combined army of the Nawabs. We have already seen that Nawabs is nothing but a combined army in the sense the Nawab of Oudh, the Nawab of Bengal and the Mughal Emperor started to form the army. So this war we call it as Battle of Buxar, and after utilizing this losing, the company started to collect what? They started to collect the taxes. Good. They started to collect the taxes. In which part the taxes has been collected? The taxes has been collected in Bengal. And the next is British measures. British measures in conquering territories. First, the British started to observe the conflicts, that is the fight among the small kingdoms and the large kingdoms, and they started to capture the states. What was the policy which is being utilized by the British to cover the kingdoms? We saw it as divide and rule policy, is dividing the kingdoms and started to rule those kingdoms. And the next is we saw about three powerful kingdoms. Who are the three powerful kingdoms? The Maratha king, the Punjab king and the Mysore kings. Yes. So what is the year the British has been established to most of their power? In the year of 1850. Good. Next we have been started to see about what? Advantages. Yes. What sort of education was introduced by the British? The British instead introduced formal education. Yes. What are all the subjects we have seen that British has been introduced in formal education? Western science, economy and political science. That is political education. And the next, what are all the social evils has been stopped by the British? We have seen only two: child marriage and sati system. Yes. And the third is, which system was introduced by the British? Railway system was introduced. From where to where the first train started? The first train started from Mumbai to Thane in the year of 1853. Good. And the last is the British introduced two main things of communication. What are the two main things of communication they have started? Telegraph and postal system. Good. So now also we are using this postal system. I already told you telegraph is nothing but an instrument which transmits the message from one place to the other place in a very shorter time by using the signals, that too through wires. And the next we have seen is disadvantages of the British rule in India. Yes, the first disadvantage in the sense the British started to purchase the raw materials from the farmers and from the Indian people of handloom industry at a very low price, and they shipped these handloom properties to the European market. And the second is the finished goods were again sold back to Indian people in a very high price, and which could not be competed, or otherwise they have been sold out in a very low price which cannot be equal to the price of the Indian farmers. And the third is the farmers were forced to grow two main cash crops. What are all those things? Cotton and indigo. Yes. And the last is the farmers were paid to pay heavy taxes. And along with this we have seen once again a law also, isn't it? Doctrine of lapse. In this doctrine of lapse we have already seen a king who has been ruled the particular kingdom, if he is not having his own son or queen, that entire property will be coming under the control of British. So by using this doctrine of lapse, major amount of kingdoms has been annexed by the British. One among the example we have seen is Rani Lakshmi Bai's kingdom, isn't it? Yes, her adopted son is not been accepted as the next kingdom, so her entire property has been annexed by the British government. So children, we have seen some few important concepts. Let us continue the remaining in the next class. Thank you children.